Now I'm going to start working on the JCMs. Again, to make sure that base joint correctors are turned on now, and start working your way through all the different bends and twists. Making sure that there's no poke throughs or movement of the mesh. I'll speed it up so you don't have to sit through it all. Right, usually the first one where you have to start adjusting JCMs will be with thigh bend and side. So minus 57. Make sure that's smooth. Yeah, it seems to be okay. Make sure it's base resolution, smoothing turned off, and export your morphs. Morph that you want to fix. I'm going to clean it up just a little bit. It doesn't need a lot. And I'm using Modo to fix my JCMs. Import the morph. Alright, I'm going to use my smoothing brush and my push brush in Modo to smooth it out just a little bit. Make sure the texture distortion's not out of hand. And I always rig with the texture on like this one because I can see straight away where there's texture issues that's going to appear, and then I can fix it right from the start. Export selected, and then I'm going to import it into Studio with MorphLoader Pro. Reverse deformations will be on, and preserve existing deltas only. Import. Now do the same for the other side. I speeded it up a little bit so you can see what I'm doing without sitting through it in real time. Clean it up, export it, bring it in with reverse deformation. Now do the same for side to side. That usually needs a fair bit of cleaning up. Copy the name. Export to the Studio. Okay. Importing it, I have quite a bit of cleaning up to do in this one, but get the texture to be as little distorted as what you can. Yeah, I might need to clean up the UV mesh a little bit more. Now I didn't realize, but I had smoothing type on generic. Changing it to base shape will actually clean up the UVs a lot more. Just a little tip to keep in mind. Bring it back in, just clean it up a little bit more with smoothing from there, back in again. Oops. Export selected. After I clean it up a little bit, bring it back in. There we go. Right, it's starting to look better. Now repeat the same process on the other side. Need to do a bit more work on the UV map there, but okay. Same process on the other side. And exporting, cleaning up in Modo as much as I can, making sure the texture map's a little bit better. Taking it back to Dev Studio with reverse deformation turned on. Okay, now I'm going to bend both sides so I can do a correction morph for both of them together. I want the seam in the middle to be more or less straight, and texture stretching kept to a minimum. Okay, you're going to import in Dev Studio with reverse deformation. Find the morph, set your minimum to 0 and dial the morph up. Make sure it's set to auto follow transforms. Now I'm going to select the pants, the the left and right thigh, and then under currently selected the side to side, and I'm going to run the multi-dimensional property setup script. Find it all the way under morphs, select the morph and click accept. Then make sure that it's control click on the morph to make sure that it's reset. And now test it. Okay, everything seems to be fine, so I'm saving the pants. Now I add an extra morph for the pants bent, for the thighs bent at 90 degrees. I exported it to Modo. I'm going to do my fixes in the modeler. I'm going to export it out to, and then import in Dev Studio with reverse deformation turned on, and override deltas. Find it under morphs, clamp the minimum to 0, dial the morph up. Now you can see what it looks like. Okay, right click on the left thigh bend. You can ignore all of this, it's because I've got rigid follow nodes in there. Select everything and right click on and toggle selected, and then only select the one that you want. Fix the right side as well. I'm going to import the morph that I already fixed. And now that both legs are ERC freezed, I'm going to bend both to 90 and export a morph that I can use to fix for when she's in a sitting position. So usually I'll just add an L and a R to the morph name to show that it's left and right. So just tweak the mesh until the texture is good. Get rid of all the little awkward bits. And then when you're finished, I'm going to export it and import again with reverse deformation on. And then I'm going to find the morph. I'm going to set it to set minimum to 0 and dial it up. Alright, that fixed that. Next up, I'm going to select the pants, the left and right thigh, as well as the bend, and use the multi-dimensional property setup. Find the morph, select it, and click accept. Alright, I'm going to zero the legs and then just test them off to make sure that it's correct. And I notice that it's kicking in even though only one leg is being used. So find the morph, and Alt plus the left mouse button will reset the parameter dial to the default settings. And now when you move it, it should only kick in when you actually move both legs together. Yep. Alright, now when she's sitting, there's no awkward creases or anything. Alright, keep on going through. Can you do the twist? That's all fine. Bend the shins. Alright, I have a little bit of fixing to do in that. So I'm going to export the morph. Yeah. Alright, so I'm going to set the shins to 90. Make sure the morph's at full strength and export it to Fix and Modo. Copy the name. Base resolution. I'm going to leave smoothing on and then export to Modo. And then it's the same again. I'm going to fix the morph, export it to Dash Studio, and import with Morph Loader Pro. Alright, that works fine. Okay, now for the left side, it's going to be exactly the same, so I won't show that. Now that the shin's fixed, I'm going on to the feet. Alright. So again, I'm going to change the Genesis maximum to 75 so that the morph is at full. And then select the clothing, and I'm going to export a morph. Copy the name. And then once it's in Modo, I'm going to get rid of most of the texture distortion and just make it look a little bit more natural. Alright, mostly at the front of the foot I want to have it come up just a little bit. Alright, that looks much better. Export. and then import into Dash Studio with reverse deformation. Okay, now I've got to bend the foot up. Need to do a little bit of fixing for that. Copy the name, export to Modo. And Modo, I'll do my fix. Alright, make sure the texture looks good. Export it and import it in Dash Studio. And there we go. Right now I've got to do the same for the other side. Once I have everything finished, I'm going to test it through some basic poses and see if I can find any problem areas. Oops, yeah, okay, so I've got a little problem poke through on the thigh on the inside, and I'm going to do a custom ERC to fix that. So that side's fine. If I do that side, I have a bit of poke through. Yep. Okay, so it's going to be base resolution, export the morph. I'm going to call it a new name, which is basically just thigh side and the side it's in, base. Okay, I'm going to import it, and then I'm going to go inside the model and pull out the pan so that there's no mesh showing through. Again, I'm using the smoothing tool and the push tool. So get it as close as possible. No poke throughs. And then I'm going to export it to Dash Studio and import it with Morph Rotor Pro and reverse selection, reverse deformation selected. Alright, make it look a bit more natural. And then I'm going to import it into Dash Studio. Find the morph, clamp it to 0 for the minimum, and dial it up. And that fixes the problem. So now I'm going to select the right thigh bend, select the ERC freeze. Everything else has to be unselected. The only thing you want is the morph that's currently used. You can ignore everything else. Now when I use side to side, there's no more poke through. Great. Okay, I'm going to import the fixed morph for the other side as well. ERC freeze it. And now I'm going to test it again in the different poses. And no more poke through. That looks good. And now I'm going to save. File again. And because it's the final one, I'm going to give it the name that I want the outfit to go out under. So this will be the final version. Saved it with a new name. And that's the end for rigging the pants.